All right, so I want to welcome everybody for our Search for Excellence Judges Orientation. And I just want to say how exciting it is to have all of you here and to have a panel of judges this year. This is the first year we've expanded out and had this panel of judges. Before, it's been the core team who took care of managed the judging. So I know we've got quite a few new folks with us. So if you want to make sure and put your name and your county in the chat, the county where you're Master Gardener volunteer. We know we've already heard from several of you, but we're really glad to have you here. Also, I just wanted to introduce our Search for Excellence team who has been working with Search for Excellence. This is the third year, I think, that this group has been involved. We've got David Higginbotham, who's the chair, Wanda Crutchfield, who's a Master Gardener volunteer.
Hey, y'all.
Yeah, hey, David. Wanda's in Durham County. We got Carolyn Flowers in Guilford. And I'm not sure if Mickey's on with us yet, but Mickey Levine is in Chowan County. Does any of our team folks want to say anything?
Welcome to everyone. Look forward to working with everyone.
Same here. All right. So what we're going to talk about today is just a brief introduction, kind of some background on Search for Excellence, then how we select our recipients, and specifically the scoring matrix, because that's going to be really important to you as a judge. Then we'll have time for team members to give tips based on past years' experience judging. And those of you who are going to be judges this year, if you've been part of a judging team before, we're wide open to any tips you want to share. And then we'll finish up with any questions or discussion you guys want to have. So Search for Excellence is the statewide recognition program for Master Gardener volunteer work in North Carolina. So this is through the NC State Extension Master Gardener program. And there is actually a broader international Search for Excellence, but we're looking at the specific to North Carolina. And the real goal for Search for Excellence is to identify these outstanding projects that are being undertaken by groups of Master Gardener volunteers, not just an individual doing great work, with this focus on significant learning. So we're looking for projects that result in significant learning. You'll see on the slides, I do have some pictures from past winners, just so you can get a feel for the types of projects that we've seen for the last few years. And any Master Gardener volunteer can apply. So this is not part of the local or statewide association. So membership in any type of state or local association does not, isn't required or isn't relevant to applying for Search for Excellence. And the applications are to be prepared by volunteers, not extension staff. And there are actually 7 different categories. And any local group or county program can submit up to 7 applications in a year because they can submit 1 per category. So even if a county's doing 2 great things, say in the youth category, they have to choose 1. So they can have a total of 7 for the 7 different categories, but not more than 1 in each category. And they can't submit projects that were previously recognized. So if they have a great project, and even if they continue to work on it, if it was recognized in a past year, it can't be submitted again. And so we go through the projects at the state level and make sure before we share them with the judges that they haven't been judged before and been in the awards program before. So for a project to be eligible, it has to have completed a full year or cycle. So, you know, if it is a project that does last for a year, say doing a whole season's worth of different projects at, say, the farmer's market, say you're having a booth and you're going to submit that as community outreach, you wouldn't have just started that. Say if you just started it in April, it wouldn't be applicable this year. You would need to have completed that whole season of doing it. So we are looking at projects that were active just in the past year and that have kind of completed 1 full cycle or calendar year of activity. Again, it is looking for group projects and not something that just 1 Master Gardener volunteer is heading up. And we definitely want to see that focus on education, which can be education focused on the Master Gardener volunteers themselves. So it can be continuing education for volunteers or for the public. And we want to see evidence of learning taking place by either the volunteers involved or the public who participate. The categories are youth programs, demonstration garden, workshop or presentation, community service, innovative projects, research, and special needs audiences. So some of these are pretty easy to understand. Youth programs would be youth outreach or partnerships with 4-H. Demonstration gardens could include community gardens if there's teaching and demonstration aspect to it. Workshop or presentation can, as we've mentioned, like all of these, include both workshops or presentations that were geared towards the volunteers themselves and building their knowledge and skills, or for the public. Community service is typically some type of outreach, which can include things like having booths at events, community events, or more of a service-oriented project that helps the public in some way. Innovative projects can be things that maybe they don't necessarily fit the other categories, but it's a new and different way of doing something, a new and innovative way of fulfilling our mission to teach people about sustainable gardening. So it can be a pretty varied category, and some really exciting things come through there. Research is one we tend to have lower applications in, and some years we don't have any applications, but that really does refer to a research project where there was a problem identified and then some type of research project developed to solve that problem or to find an answer. One of our more recent research project winners was the Dare County group, who teach a lot of hands-on presentations, hands-on workshops to get people engaged. And they were teaching a workshop about something called kokodama, which I hope I'm pronouncing correctly. It's a Japanese art of growing plants on these little balls of soil. And the problem is, in Japan, there is a special mix to do this, you know, and it all fits together, it just stays together in this little ball, which was really difficult to get here in the United States. So they needed to find an alternative. So they came up with a research project where they, you know, came up with different mixes, some commercially available ones, and some they created themselves, just bought peat moss and stuff like that. And they had an experiment where they, you know, tried the different mixes they were working with and grew plants on them and see which held together. So it was a research project, and they had results that then were used to have this workshop to engage people in gardening. So this is the type of projects we could look at. Variety trials would work here. You know, if somebody, say in their demonstration garden, or even just in various Master Gardener volunteers' home gardens, we're trying to find the best tomato variety for a particular area, or a squash variety that the vine borers don't kill immediately. You know, that could also qualify as research projects. And then special needs audience could include people that have disabilities. It also includes at-risk youth. So that's one place where we do pull at-risk youth into the special needs audiences versus into the youth programs. But just where there is an audience with a special need. Do we have any questions about the categories?
So Stephanie, are you going to have these slides so that we can look back at them?
Absolutely. In fact, I think I've got it. Yep. I meant to drop this in the chat to start with, but if you click on that enormously long, actually you might have to copy and paste it, that enormously long link in the chat, you can open the slides and watch them with us, but I will send it out for sure. And you'll be able to come back and review them all, as well as the recording. And so when the groups apply, they choose their category. So this is something that's already selected. And we do have these categories to align with the International Master Gardener Search for Excellence. So Master Gardener program is international because it does exist both in Canada and in South Korea, as well as all across the United States. So every other year, the International Master Gardener Search for Excellence is held, and North Carolina has typically performed really well, especially when the conference where the awards are given is a little closer to home because typically it is required with International Master Gardener. If you win, you have to go to the conference to accept the award. And just recently in the 2019 International Search for Excellence, we had 2 first place winners from North Carolina. There's only 7 first place winners across the United States, and I think there were about 300 entries. So we had 2 of those, which was just wonderful. The demonstration garden at Guilford County, just their little crevice garden at the entrance, and then Dare County had their speakers bureau. So we've typically done really well, and we represent the program really well through International Master Gardener. And one thing that's really exciting this year, well, next year coming up, is the International Master Gardener Conference will be held in Norfolk, Virginia. So very close to home. So we hope this will be an opportunity for many people to attend who maybe haven't had the opportunity to attend that before. And I was just noticing a question in the chat that says, does the criteria explain the categories? It doesn't go into detail. It does a little bit for research and for special needs audiences, but people who are applying certainly have the opportunity to ask a question. For example, if they're not sure which category is the best to submit their project, we do have some of our applicants ask that. Sometimes we give them advice. So we really hope a lot of our applicants this year for Search for Excellence go on to apply for the International Search for Excellence program. And those call for applications will probably go out sometime this fall. So far for this year, we do have several entries. In most of our categories, we don't yet have entry in research or special needs audience. And we did have a deadline of May 1st, but this is such an unusual year for everything that we did put out a survey just to see how many other folks out there would have applied if they had more time. And we got pretty good response on that there's some people out there that are pretty serious about applying if we extend the deadline. So we have decided to extend it out to July 1. But we kept our date today just because we didn't want to have to reschedule again. And we will extend the deadline out for all of the categories till July 1. And so you'll actually get the applications by July 8th assigned to you. And if we need to hold a little refresher when we do that, we certainly can, or just a little Q&A before you start judging. We'll look at doing that because I know it's a few weeks away from now until then. But we do hope to have all of the judges' scores back in by August 7th, so you'll have a full month, and then we'll announce the recipients by August 14th. And then we'll schedule a webinar, which will allow all of the recipients to present their projects and tell people about them. And we'll set that date once we know who has been awarded the Search for Excellence and when they can attend. Between now and then, though, we really encourage you to review the past winners. So we do have some great summaries for our past couple of years worth of winners, 2019, 2018. They're linked here from the slides. And when I send you the link, you can see the publication. I mean, you can see these slides just as we're looking at it. And all of these links will be live, so you'll be able to click on them and open them. And if you have any questions, you are welcome to drop them in the chat or unmute your mic and ask as we go through. So who are the judges? You guys are the judges. So we do pull our judges from volunteers from across the state. And then, of course, we've already mentioned and met our working group or our Search for Excellence team. And the important thing to know is that as a judge, you'll not be asked to judge a category that your county has submitted an application for. So say if you're in Guilford County and Guilford County put in an application for youth programs, you would judge the other categories but not youth programs. So we don't want any conflicts of interest that way. There is a score sheet which has a matrix. We'll take a look at it. We've actually, just this morning, David and I were communicating and decided that we would put it together as a Google form. So when you submit your scores, you'll go through the Google form and put them in. So we'll look at that in just a minute. But there is a matrix. Again, it's based on the International Master Gardener Search for Excellence, which gives you a total of 100 points. And to select the recipient, we do average the scores from all the judges. And for a project to be a recipient, they have to get at least 80, the average of 80 across all the judges. So it might be that we have a category where there's only one application, but that application scores lower. Maybe it only has an average of 60. So we actually wouldn't in that case have a winner in that category. So just because there's one applicant in a category doesn't automatically make them the winner. There is a place to add comments on the score sheet, and they're really just some basic things. What do you like best about the project? Do you have suggestions for improvement? And that can be for the project or the application, because remember, we do want people to take these applications and submit them on to the international. So any suggestions on how to make the application stronger for International Master Gardener Search for Excellence are really appreciated, as well as just general comments. And we do share those back with the applicant, so it's really important to add those comments. And we are looking to both strengthen their project and their volunteer work, as well as hopefully improve their application, and encouraging them to go on to apply for the International Search for Excellence. I thought you might want to see how that feedback is shared. So this is the form that goes to teams that have applied. So whether they were selected as the recipient or not, everybody gets one of these feedback forms. And so no individual judges are mentioned, and so you don't have to worry about that. So we do just show them the total of their scores that they received for each category, and how that averaged out. And then the comments, again, it's just a summary, and we do them as bullets. We might not pull it exactly word for word for how you enter it, and if 2 or 3 people say the same thing, we won't list it multiple times. But this is how your feedback will go to the back to the applicants. And the form does start off telling them that we're sharing this feedback with them in hopes it'll strengthen their project and help them build a stronger application for the International Search for Excellence if they choose to apply. So the scoring matrix itself, we'll look at the scoring matrix, what counts for points, and then we'll look at the form you'll use to enter the points. So there are 7 different parts we judge each application on. 4 of them are worth 10 points each, and 3 of them are worth 20 points each. So the 4 that are worth 10 points each are simplicity. And again, these are pulled from the International Search for Excellence judging. Simplicity, so ideas that can be easily replicated, because that's one of the real goals with Search for Excellence, is to share the great work our volunteers are doing with volunteers in other counties to inspire them and give them ideas for projects. So we do hope that some of the projects are replicated in other counties. We want them to be relevant, and particularly relevant to the target audience. And you'll see that word target audience used and underlined several times. So we want there to be some thought process going into it, some intentionality, that we recognize that this group had an educational need, so we decided to develop this project or program, and we've offered it to them. So it needs to be relevant to the target audience, and a good way to meet their educational needs. Then with creativity, particularly if they're replicating a project that they've seen somewhere else, it's always good to just see some unique additions that reflect the personality of the local county or the people involved, the Master Gardener program at that local level. So creativity gives 10 points. And then the number of people impacted. And again, I do want to emphasize there, it is within the target audience. So we're not judging one project against another. If one reached 1,000 people and one reached 20 people, what we really want to see is, did they identify that target audience, and did they reach the people they needed to reach? So think of it more as a percentage, or just, were they intentionally focused on certain people, and did did those people respond, not just a straight number. So our 20-point items that we score start off with the project must be compatible with the Extension Master Gardener mission. And as you can see, with these being 20 points, if a project doesn't match one of these, so they get no points for any one of these 20 points, then there's no way they can win, because 100 minus 20 would be 80. So they would just be reaching the threshold. So we definitely want to see that the project is compatible with the Extension Master Gardener mission. So that's going to have 3 points. It's going to be educational, it's going to be research-based, and non-discriminatory. So you can have a target audience. It doesn't have to be open to any member of the public. Say, for example, your target audience is a particular school district. It's just the children in that school district. But it needs to be matching our non-discriminatory mission, so available to everybody within the target audience. And the target audience is based on the need. Significant learning needs to have taken place. So what we're really asking is, did the participants, which can include the volunteers themselves or the public, increase their knowledge and skills? Did they learn something? Did they change their attitudes as a result? And hopefully, did they adopt new practices or change how they do something? That's the gold standard in Extension, is to get people to adopt new practices. So they take what they learn and they apply it, and it makes a difference. And the difference, could be improving their lives. It could have economic impacts, environmental or health or well-being benefits. And again, did we reach the target audience? So we want to know, we want the application to tell us about that, and we want to see how that was determined. So the projects can talk about, maybe they did some kind of survey, or it can just be more informal. It can be conversations with the participants. So they don't have to have like this really heavy duty data, but they have to show us that they did make an effort to communicate with the participants and find out how the project or the program affected them. And then the clarity of the application. So we really are basing our scores on the application itself. So it's really important that the application tell us all these steps, tell us about the target audience and tell us about the goals, and that they tell us, what was done and what resulted. We can't just assume, because a class was held, that people attended and they actually learned something. So we want that application to be really complete. The application itself is a form that's 4 pages. And the instructions do say to submit it in Times New Roman at 12 point. That kind of goes back to the International Search for Excellence. And the first page is just real basic information. So there's 3 pages of information about the project. The description, people generally do a really good job of the description of the project and, telling us how it was implemented. But we also want to see the results and the methods. So again, methods, how it was implemented, how the target audience was chosen, how the results were determined, and then some information about the results. Those are really critical. There are some additional documents that get submitted with each application, and you'll have access to all of these. There's a press release, which is a 1-page summary, which actually is a really good introduction to the project. So the press release, they can submit up to 6 images, and we ask them to be individual files, not embedded in the application. And the agent sends a letter that just verifies that this is a Master Gardener project in their county. You can see all the forms and the template for the press release, the template for the agent letter are available online. Okay, so we're going to take a look really quick. Oops. There we go. I just need to get out of full screen. At the form, this will be how you enter your scores for each project. So each judge will have their own form. So this is just a template And you'll fill out the information, which county. In fact, once we have all the counties, we'll pre-populate this, so it'll be a drop down. So you'll just say this is for Garden County, and they are applying in the community service category, and we'll have a place where you can put in your score for each one of these parameters: simplicity, practicality, creativity. The learning, the 20-point ones are next. The learning, whoops, I think I missed a few. I was working on this morning, so it's not completely finished. So you can see I need to add a few more of these scoring areas. Then we have the feedback questions, the what do you like best, the suggestions for improvement, and the general comments. And everything you enter here will download into a spreadsheet, and you will have access to your spreadsheet as the judge. So when you go to the spreadsheet, you'll just see your responses. So if you want to edit them once you get through with everything, you will certainly be able to do that. Is there any questions about how you'll enter the scores?
No.
Okay, I'm going to bring the chat back up. For some reason, it's hidden. Okay, I hadn't missed anything from the chat. All right. And then, as I mentioned earlier, all of the scores from the individual judges will be averaged for each project to get the overall score. And the project in each category that has the highest overall score will be the winner. And if there is a tie, we did have a tie last year, we will give 2 winners in one category. And each county that does have the winning project will get an award, a $200 award to their county EMG program. That is funded by our North Carolina Extension Master Gardener Endowment. And also the winning projects are featured in this annual summary, which we had the links earlier on that you can take a look at. And they'll be presented during this statewide celebration webinar. And featured on our portal and on our Facebook page as well. So we do use both the winning projects as well as the projects that aren't selected. They're still wonderful projects. You know, they're all amazing projects and help us tell the story of how Master Gardener volunteers are making a difference across the state. So now we have time to get some tips from our team who have judged before, or anybody who's joining today who's been part of judging a whole group of applications before. Please share your tips. The 2 things that have come out already in talking to the team are to read the press release first, because it is a great summary of the project. It really kind of helps you hone in on the story of the project, you know, what they were trying to do and what was accomplished. And then you can go into the application to get the full details. Then, and this might be more of a personal preference, but some of our judges have noted that they found it helpful to read all the applications in one category before they actually score them. So, for example, if you are scoring the demonstration garden category, we currently have 3 applications. So maybe go through, look at each one of them, and then go back in and score them. Do we have any other tips from anybody who's with us today, or especially from any of our folks who've judged in the past few years? Oops, I keep going forward.
Charlotte.
Uh-huh.
This is Carolyn. It helped me a little bit. We won't have as many this time, but before, it helped me not only just to do one category at a time, like you said, but to go back and read through them too. Even after I finish scoring, to go back before I set my scores in.
Right, you found that helpful.
Yeah, I found myself changing some of the scores after I had done them based on what I was reading in some of the others, because some were a lot better than the others.
Right. You know, I'm glad you mentioned that, Carolyn, because that made me remember too, one thing I did was very similar. I would read all of them and I had just some scrap paper I would scribble for each project, you know, what I thought how I was scoring them. Then before I went and put them in the final spreadsheet, I would go back through my, you know, I would adjust my scores or go back and review them and look at the whole category. So we can put together just you can, of course, either do it just on scrap paper, but we can put together like a little one-page score guide that if you wanted to print it and use it that way while you're scoring the applications before you go in and put them in the actual form, we'll make that available, so that can help with just reviewing and going through the applications before you actually submit your scores. But then again, once you submit them, they'll all go into a spreadsheet that you'll have a link that will take you there, so you can see them that way as well.
Charlotte, once they're entered in that, you can't go in and change them with this system, right?
You will be able to. So once,
Okay.
yeah. So when you do each one individually and you go through the form, they will automatically download into a spreadsheet that you'll be able to go to. You'll have access to it and you'll be able to edit it. You'll be the only one that has access to your spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet will only have your scores that you did for what the applications that you judged.
Okay.
But yes, yep, you'll be able to edit them. Got any other tips or questions?
Charlotte, this is Mitchell Hagler.
Yes.
It says Judy Hagler. That's my wife because I'm using her laptop, but
Okay.
it's Mitchell that's going to be the judge. The question about submitting to the international, would that be the current year or last year or what?
For the international, which will be awarded next year, 2021, they are looking at the 2 years beforehand. So they'll be looking at, I'm assuming they'll be looking at projects that were active in 2019 and 2020.
Okay.
If they put the call out this fall, they may actually date it back. Like it might not count 2020. It might be 2019, 2018. So there's a little, it's just going to depend on when they get the call out for applications and how they decide to, what they're going to count as the previous 2 years, if it'll include 2020 or not.
Yeah, well, we won in 2019, so I wanted to submit that if that's, you know, still in the time limit.
It should be. It should be. Yep. That would be wonderful. Wonderful to see that submitted, your project submitted. Because even if they make it 2019, 2020, it'll still be applicable.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, that's one reason why we do have that 2-year window, which might seem a little odd since we do Search for Excellence every year. The international is every other year, but we decided to keep the 2-year window for projects maybe that span, you know, over the calendar year, or been started one year and got better, improved, grew the next year. One thing we will ask when, once we get, let me go back to the timeline really quickly. So we'll get all the scores in, you know, you'll have scored yours individually, and we'll tally them up and kind of announce to you guys as the judging team who the winners were. If we need to meet, like say if there is a tie or something really close, we might need to meet and discuss something. But we asked you not to let any of the cat out of the bag, not to let any of the winners know until we make the official announcement. We will let the individual teams know that they are the recipient, and then we'll send out an announcement to everybody. So yeah, if you'll score your projects and submit your scores, and if any of the people who have applied happen to know your scoring, just tell them that the the winners will be announced by August 14th. That you can't give them any kind of inside information on that. We have any other tips or questions? So we will take questions. Of course, David Higginbotham is our chair, so you can always send questions to David as you're working through, or you're welcome to copy me as well. Whenever we get questions individually, we make sure and share them with each other. Well, it looks like hopefully this means it's pretty self-explanatory, but again, the big thing being we will be extending the call. So we will be sending out an announcement that will let people submit applications up until July 1st. And based on our survey responses, we hope to get at least 4 or 5 more. And then we will give them over to you by July 8th for you to start judging. And again, we'll certainly be willing to answer individual questions or hold a little Q&A session if we need to before you start judging. And then once you submit them in the form, they're recorded automatically. But when you're finished with everything, we'll ask you to notify us just so we know you've finished reviewing and tweaking and making any edits, so we can tally them up for the final scores. Okay, we have anything else anybody wants to share or ask, or wants me to share on my screen if you want to see the form again or anything like that?
Charlotte, I think you've done a great job covering it as always. And I think for some of the new people, it's a lot of information. I remember the first time I saw it all, I thought, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? So I think there may be some questions that come up even from someone like me who's done it before. But at this point, I feel pretty comfortable with what you've given us. And as long as we have the recording and can refer back to it, that should be very helpful.
Absolutely, and you'll have that. Can you think of anything, Wanda? Would it be helpful if I sent a couple of applications from last year? Would anybody want to start, just as a review or to start looking at to see what an application is like? I'll definitely go ahead and send out the template for the form. It won't be your personalized form, but you'll be able to see the template of the scores that you'll enter.
I still have all of last year's on my computer, but maybe some of the new people that would give them some insight. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I do see in the chat. So, so Stephanie saying the link to the slides, I'll definitely send. So you'll get the slides, you'll get the scoring sheet, and I'll include a couple of applications from last year. So you can kind of read through them and get a feel for that process, kind of help get a process developed for yourself. Because I think it is going to vary a little bit from person to person, what works best. All right, well, I will just say thank you again. It is so wonderful to have a group of folks helping judge this year. I think it'll help us get a broader field of feedback to share with our applicants. I think you'll find it really exciting because it's just really interesting to hear about these projects and read about what volunteers are doing across the state. And we really appreciate you joining us this year.
Thank you, Charlotte. It'll be great to see the applications coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Take care. Be safe.
Yeah, absolutely. If everybody has a wonderful day and that you're doing well and continue to do so.